Hey, what's up guys? Chip Walters here again for another tutorial on moving from SketchUp to Blender. And today we want to talk about the HDRI Lighting Shortcut, which is a great shortcut for enabling you to render with HDRI. First off, to get started, you should understand a little bit about what is HDRI. HDRI stands for High Dynamic Range Image, and it's a way of applying real-world lighting to your scene. Basically what happens is people have created these HDRI images, and these images have captured the lighting information for a particular environment. You can then apply that in Blender and you can get things like this picture here, which you're looking at, which has reflections built in, automatically adds all the lighting for you, so you don't have to really mess with spotlights and sunlights and area lights and all of that. So this is a quick way to get very photorealistic results in Blender. Okay, let's get started. So first off, you have to go to this URL and you can actually Google search for HDRI Lighting Shortcut and you will come here. And down here it's got a manual and download the add-on. So the add-on is a zip file, and the zip file you'll uncompress and you'll store it in your add-ons folder, and then we'll talk about how we're going to install it. The manual is right here, incredibly short, very simple. Let's get started. Here we've downloaded HDRI Lighting Shortcut, the master folder. I'm going to right click on it and say extract all, and here's the folder that we want. I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it, Command C. I'm going to go to my add-ons folder, which is basically, if you recall, I put it in my Dropbox folder. Here's Blender 2.79, scripts, add-ons, and I'll paste. And really, that's all there is to it as far as moving the files around. Now what I typically do when I add a new add-on is I just shut down Blender and restart it. And then I go into my preferences, find my add-ons, and here I'll type in HDRI. There it is. You can see I've already actually installed it before, so it has a checkbox next to it. I expand it and it says HDRI folder. I actually keep all my HDRI files in the same folder. This textures folder, HDRI, accept. So there we have that. So it's stored there. So now anytime I want to add an HDRI file, it'll start off in that folder. And then I say save user settings and I close it. And now I should be good to go. Before we set up the scene, let's take a look at exactly what HDRI lighting setup does for us. I'm going to create a node panel by dragging straight down from this area, about middle size. I'll go over here and choose the node editor. I'll go here and I'll choose background. So you can see right now we have no nodes in the background. So in here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit Shift Z, so we're rendering. So that's our rendering. You remember that we have the shadow catcher on. So I'm going to select the plane. The plane is selected up here. I'm going to go directly into that object, scroll all the way down, turn off shadow catcher so we can see it. Now I'm ready to apply the HDRI lighting setup. So I'm going to go into the World tab and scroll down, and here we see HDRI Lighting Shortcut. Hit the load image. Remember, we came automatically to where I keep them. I'm going to click this little button up here, which actually gives me all of my HDRI lightings. And I'm going to choose one of these. Say load image. And now look up here what it did for us. It created all of this in order to give us the kind of control that we're going to want over HDR lighting. So let's go ahead and remove the node editor now that we've seen it. Drag this and we'll drag it straight. So let's add a sphere to the scene. Let's first get out of the cycles render mode. I'm going to select the cube and move it over. Shift A, mesh, UV sphere. Let's move it up one on the Z. Let's smooth it. And let's go to materials and let's create a new material, and let's call this material chrome. Let's apply the principled BSDF shader, and we'll go right in here and we'll just put metallic, and then we'll Shift Z over here. We'll see the scene render, and you can see that that chrome is reflecting the HDRI map in the background. So let's go ahead back to the world. We'll change that to a different background, and you can see again the chrome is reflecting that same background. Now let's take a look at a couple of the settings. So we do have this orientation, so we can actually spin the background around to get the lighting how we want it. In the case of some of the HDRI maps, they have a particular direction of the light, in particular ones that have suns in them. So let's look at this airstrip, for instance. So we can see that we have shadows, very strong shadows. As we move this orientation around, you see the shadows get to move around as well. I'm going to switch to a different HDRI that's not quite as bright, and we can see now these adjustments can make a bigger change. Let's go into exposure. You can adjust that up and down just by dragging on the little slider here. If we adjust the blur, notice that it blurs not only the background but actually the reflection here. Leave these at the defaults. We can adjust the saturation if we want, but in this case it's a black and white background, so it's not going to do anything. But if we want to punch up the saturation, we can. We can even change the hue as well. If you noticed, my HDRIs are all these rectilinear maps. This mirror ball is if you want to load a different kind of map. Let's take a look at what they might look like. So these are mirror ball maps. This one's not, but these are. So if you have a HDRI map that looks like this, you're going to want to check the mirror ball checkbox. And that's about it. That should hopefully get you started in using HDRIs to help light your scenes in Blender. Thanks for watching.